Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Meshery Build and Release call. This call takes place every other week on the even weeks on Thursday. So here we are, and mostly in this call we discuss about everything that we miss out on the call that we had yesterday, which was the development call. So in case you miss that call, make sure you attend because that's a weekly call. So we have that every other week, and that's a generic that call. So everyone gets to have some agenda items there. Here mostly we deal with stuff which is related to CI, GitHub Actions, or end-to-end tests, or Cypress. Now end-to-end tests also we have UI end-to-end tests which are related to Cypress, which Abhishek will talk about in a minute, and the other end-to-end tests we have in Golang as well. So we talk about all those test related things, build related things, and we have like four or five agenda items today. So I guess we can get started. But before we get started, there are two things. So the first thing is introductions, and the second thing is the Meshery test plan, which is a standing agenda item, which I talk about for 3 minutes in every call, so that if there is a newcomer, you have an idea of what this particular test plan is and what's the use of it, and if you're contributing to CI related stuff, then how important this thing is and how you can use it. So the first thing first, introductions. So I guess I see few new faces right now. I see someone who was an older face, I guess, which I'm seeing after a long time, Augustus. Anyways, so Friedrich, if I'm not butchering the pronunciation, that's how, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. So would you like to introduce yourself? You're on mute, by the way, in case. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I was mute. So yeah, you pronounce it correctly. That's Friedrich, and I'm Friedrich. I actually joined in March, but I was actually off for a while due to exam at school and everything. But now I'm kind of back, and I'm from Kenya, and yeah, basically that's all about me. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, okay. Thanks for the introduction. It's nice to have you. I think you also have an agenda item today to talk about, so that's nice.
Yeah,
Um,
yes.
Thank you, Friedrich. And I guess Philip, this is your first time as well, right?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Philip from Lagos, Nigeria. I joined Layer 5 last 2 weeks ago. No, last 3 weeks ago. So I'm glad to be here.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Philip. I think you don't have an agenda item, but you had a pull request open, right?
Yes, yes,
Regarding
yes, I did.
tests.
Yes, yes, unit test, yes, for the
Yeah.
Kubernetes API. Yeah,
Will you
yeah.
add that in the agenda item so that we can get to it?
Okay.
Thank you, Philip. Uh,
Yeah.
Next, I guess, Hetvi, I guess this, if I'm seeing it right. So Hetvi, is it your first time as well?
Yes, actually, I am attending this meeting for the first time, but I have been contributing to the Layer 5 project since 2, 3 weeks.
Okay. So you have been to the UI calls, maybe on that happens on Mondays and the newcomers call.
Ah, yes, yes.
Okay, okay, that's nice. It's nice to see you in the CI call as well. Maybe you find something on the on Cypress tests or something else. Let's see.
Yes,
Uh,
I'm here to find some good trust issue with available.
okay, okay, okay. Fair enough. Prashant, is this your first time as well? If you,
Yeah, this is my first time joining the meeting.
yeah, would you like to say like two things about you? Maybe I don't know. So that we, uh,
Oh,
you know.
oh, okay, no problem. Basically, I am a tech undergrad student from India. I'm currently in my third year. I'm discovering open source contribution. I was going through the website of Linux Foundation. Uh, like I found Meshery there, and now I'm stuck in GitHub Optionships. Once I clear that, I'm thinking about regular contributing to Meshery. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So have you created any pull requests by now?
No, no, not till. I think I'll do it in few days. I
Okay.
have a hackathon from tomorrow actually.
Okay, okay, okay. That's fair enough. So I guess the only last name that I see actually is the first name. It doesn't have a last name, which we kind of prefer. We prefer to have both first names and last names. So if it just has a first name, then I don't know. So Sanghamitra is it your first name as well?
Yeah, this is the first time I'm attending this meeting. I've attended the one.
You're quite inaudible. Can you say that again? If your mic is in condition.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm attending this meeting. I've attended the newcomers one before,
Okay.
and yeah, I was just like trying to contribute to Meshery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this time you were audible. Thanks for that introduction. I hope you find something around the project. Okay, so get going with the second thing, which was the Meshery test plan, and then we can get rolling with the agenda items that we have lined up. So this is Meshery test plan. You have the link in the uh, in the meeting minutes, so you can look at this. So it has two spreadsheets. One is this one of automated tests and builds. Another one is this one, which has multiple test scenarios, all the things that we test out. So I'll first go over what this thing is. So there is a need for contributors to contribute on this thing because this is a community maintained spreadsheet, you can say. So like it has all sorts of tests. Some of these are manual tests. So for example, if I take any specific row, like the third row, it says that test installation by installing Meshery. So if you run this command, this is the expected outcome. And did you try to do it? And if yes, then what was the expected outcome? Did it match the actual outcome? If and you can write notes over here. So basically, some people have already written some notes. Some people have tested these things out. And as Meshery CTL adds functionality, sometimes what happens is that the expected outcomes kind of drift away. So it's like maintaining unit tests. So in code, you have unit tests. So you can while you are contributing to Meshery CTL, you always have, for every command you have a unit test in Meshery CTL. So the unit test will start to fail and you can update that. So updating unit test is pretty straightforward, but users so the expected outcome here might differ from what functionality has been added. So so when we keep iterating over the spreadsheet and keep updating the expected outcome, we can make sure that the expected outcome is at where Meshery CTL is, or Meshery is. So the first few tests are around Meshery CTL, like installing it through Helm, installing it through Homebrew, etc., etc. So these are like manual tests you can perform by Meshery CTL. And around like 96 row, you have your UI tests. So in Meshery UI, if you go in the dashboard, what should the user expect? So it's like a UX kind of a thing. So the first 95 rows were like UX around Meshery CTL, and then the next rows are UX around the UI, the Meshery UI. What should be the user experience when they open the connection wizard? Like, do they see this? And if not, then basically you can report an issue. Either you can report an issue, and so you can report an issue in the case where we were expecting the expected outcome and it wasn't there, or if the expected outcome had changed, then you can come over here and change the expected outcome. This spreadsheet is handy, especially for newcomers as they contribute, because they don't know the behavior around specific commands. They don't know the behavior around specific clicks of the buttons, what button does what. So you can refer to this spreadsheet. So the first like 100, 200 rows around that, and then we start with the automated tests. So a lot of these are Cypress tests. So we use Cypress, which is a framework that we use on front end to test the functionalities, to have end-to-end tests. And the last rows are for adapters. So in adapters, we have end-to-end tests as well. So we have gone over these adapter end-to-end tests in great details in the past. So you can check out like now to the second sheet. Here is where we list out all the actions, the GitHub actions, which we have across uh, all the projects under the Meshery org. So these, so that whenever you are making a change, you always refer back to this test plan. So if you updated, let's say you added another workflow, then you have to come over here and update it. So for example, I'm missing out on two workflows that I have added that I'm going to talk about in this particular call today. I have added these two new workflows, but these two workflows are not present over here. So that's on me. So I will update the sheet today. So the job of this sheet is to, again, to have something for newcomers to come to and just look at and get a glimpse of where should I go to if I want to contribute to, let's say an end-to-end test in Meshery, or a unit test in Meshery. So these have hyperlinks to the actual workflows, and they list out workflows and things like when does it run, what are the prerequisites. So we can rationalize about those tests under a common spreadsheet. And then we provide the link to the spreadsheet whenever you create an issue or whenever you create a pull request around anything related to CI. So yeah, those are for Meshery, and all of the Meshery adapters are grouped under the same row. So this was the test plan. Uh, so that was the the standing agenda item. I had to get this out of the way. So make use of it. Update the first one when you have time, when you are playing around with Meshery, when you are yeah. So update this one, or whenever you are contributing to like end-to-end tests, remember to update this particular spreadsheet. So so yeah, that was about that. So I'll get started with the first item, which was from Aditya, but I don't think he's here. So I think we'll have to move to the second item. Yeah, let's put it at the end so that we can circle back to it in case Aditya Subedi joins. So okay, I've already talked a lot. So I guess I'll also push my items just to the second so that Friedish can uh, talk about his item. So would you like to share your screen and talk about the read changes?
Sure, no problem. I'm gonna do so. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So okay. So based on that issue, that was actually was the goal was to move the API doc generation to with Redlock C. So basically, that's what I actually did. I created a workflow. Let me just share that workflow. Okay, so here it is. So I actually created a new workflow to generate a new doc based on the open API spec that we have at. Okay, let me. No, sorry. Okay, based on the OPI spec that we have at Data Swagger YAML. So basically, that's all. And actually, after the feedback of it, so actually, like, okay, so I'm quite lost. Okay. Okay, here it is. So that actually was suggesting to change the theme, and also if there was a possibility to sort alphabetically the API's name. So I actually did it, but so to do that, I actually have to create a new red lossy config file. But when I actually did my test, I didn't create it. I just did it like manually by adding adding it to the option while testing it with the CLI. So yeah, okay. About the templating for now, I haven't found anything related to that in their documentation, and I feel like the only way to do that is actually to do if you try to like create a documentation by using their platform itself. So, but if you are doing it with the CLI, there is actually no way to do it unless I need something in the documentation. So yeah, basically that's it.
Okay. So okay, first of all, thanks for this pull request. And
Okay.
secondly, so for alphabetically, you said that you have changed something in the config. I mean, you said something that you did manually. So if we when that workflow will run again, that config will stay, right? So it doesn't get resorted. So it will always stay alphabetically, right?
Okay. So for that, since if we have to, I can specify it in the workflow so that it will always sort it alphabetically. But if we have to add a specific theme, I actually need to like create a specific config file, and the workflow we actually use that config file to run and apply all those options.
Okay, so in the config file, can you also specify that along with the theme that it should be sorted alphabetically?
Yeah. I can do that. I can do that. Yes.
Okay, so but right now you haven't added the config file. That's the
No,
remaining
no,
part.
I have not added the config file. It's just the workflow.
Okay. And where would the config file be? And it would be loaded by the like by the GitHub action, right? The config file.
The config file actually has to be put in. I actually don't know. It might be put in the maybe in the doc folder. I actually don't know where we can actually put
So
it. So
okay, so that how does that config file look like? If you can show me once, if you have an
okay,
like an
sure.
example. Is that the
Uh,
theme.json that I see over there?
please. Yeah. That's it. That's actually I try to play with it. So
Okay.
that's actually the team JSON. Okay, let me show you the config file with Red Glossy. Okay. Uh, okay. That's actually an example of the structure of that file.
Okay. So okay, so this YAML file can go under install or scripts. I'm not sure, but in your PR you can add it maybe in the scripts directory, and then instead of inside of .github where you have uh, scripts, maybe you can add it there, or maybe inside of workflows you might have something. But instead, like I don't think it should go under install. It should go under maybe scripts under docs, because there is a specific directory structure and it is used to build
Yeah.
the docs. So I don't know if
Mhm.
we should put the configuration there. So either there or because one way is to like take this config file and then base 64 encode it and put it in a GitHub secret and then use that GitHub secret. But the problem with that
Yes.
approach is that we'll have to go and change the secret every time we want to make a change to the configuration. So that's also not
Yeah. That's
desirable. So I would say you put it in like any directories like scripts directory for now, just to like a proposal,
okay.
and then other folks can
Okay.
direct you to take that config and put it somewhere else.
Okay. All right. So actually, I have a question. Like for the doc generation, do you want it after the workflow being run to be actually like deploy it on a GitHub page or something like that?
Okay. So for testing, like yeah, it would be nice if on your local fork maybe or somewhere you can test it out with a on a GitHub page and then put a link to that under your PR. And
Okay.
yeah, so people can look at how it's going to look like at the end. So yeah, that would be desirable, I would say.
Okay. Cool. Okay. But actually, I was talking about like the main workflow that I will push, like that the one that I'm editing right now. This, sorry,
Okay, so
this. Okay.
you mean on master.
Yeah, on master. Like, because each time that the main branch is updated, this workflow is actually run. So I was wondering if we should like create a this workflow should create a GitHub page so that like
Okay,
I
yeah,
don't know if you get me.
yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if the
Okay.
people who work on docs will approve of that.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I see.
I'm not sure about it. You can ask on
Okay.
maybe Meshery UI channel or documentation channel maybe that I want to do it. Should I do it? I have very less authority on that, so I wouldn't be able to nod my head yes or no in this case.
Yes.
But I would still say that if you want to, like if you just want to do that for testing purposes, you can still do it on any other like on any other branch that you create, or on your own fork you can create another branch and
Okay.
change the triggers for that workflow so that it runs maybe whenever you push onto your own branch. So for an example, like this is what we do usually when we want to first do a proof of concept kind of a thing where we want to show what has been deployed. So generally we use our own fork for that and not the upstream. So it's always suggested to use your own fork for all testing purposes, and then and use the screenshots and the runs of that workflow, paste the link to that run so that we know it was a success when it ran on your fork, so that we are more comfortable merging it on the master. So that is what I would say. But if you still have doubts regarding this, if you still think that it would be appropriate to have that on upstream, then you can ask it on the Slack channel, and maybe someone else can answer you. Maybe Lee can answer you, maybe someone else. But yeah, I don't have that much of an authority over on the docs, so I wouldn't be able to say yes for that.
Okay, makes sense. Cool. So basically, that's it.
Okay. Well, that was really nice. I'm excited for having this new Open API doc generation CLI. I think there would be major changes given that like we are moving away from the Swagger thing. So for people who don't have, just to give context to other people, so Swagger is basically a specification for all the REST APIs. If you have a REST API and you want to expose that REST API to the client, and you want to create, let's say, documentation, which Friedish is trying to do in this case. Uh, so in that case, you have if you have a specification, then it becomes really easy to do documentation. It becomes really easy to generate, let's say, SQL commands for a particular handler. You can even do code generation, because if you have a schema that says that whenever a request comes on /get, this X thing has to happen or this Y thing has to happen, then basically you have the whole overview of the API using a single spec, and then you can, all of these things that you're seeing on your screen are actually coming from a one YAML file, which or a JSON file for that case, which has like all the configurations. And yeah, so that was the job of Swagger. And up until Swagger 1.0 and Swagger 2.0, it was called Swagger. But as we moved to the third version of this particular thing, it was adopted by and changed to Open API. So whenever you hear Open API v2, it actually means Swagger. And whenever you hear Open API v3, that's the first time, Swagger 3.0 is also called Open API v3. So mostly people have moved to Open API, and in Meshery also across other components, we are trying to move to Open API rather than using Swagger or Swagger 2.0. So one of the example is that recently we moved, we are generating components from Kubernetes, where Kubernetes tells us its capabilities, and Kubernetes also has two endpoints. One is /OpenAPI/v2. So if you would like do something like kube proxy, or and then you try to hit Kubernetes endpoint, the kubeAPI server. If you hit on /OpenAPI/v2, you will get another one response, and then /OpenAPI/v3, you will get another response. So we were using v2, and now we were using v3. Similarly, here also we are moving to another CLI which is based upon OpenAPI rather than just rather than Swagger. So yeah, that was, so these are just your specifications which define how a REST API should look like. And internally, they use a JSON schema. JSON schema also has a lot of drafts, like draft 04, draft 06, draft 07. You can go and research in your own time what JSON schema drafts are, and which Swagger version uses what JSON schema draft. Because like in this case, if you see a response, and inside of response, you see an object, right? Like provider properties represent this particular thing. So this thing is represented by in a JSON schema. The whole response is represented in a JSON schema, where you have like things like what you see, additional property, that it is an additional property, or maybe it is an integer, the data type for that particular object. That all of those things are represented in a schema, in a JSON schema, and JSON schema also have multiple drafts. So OpenAPI v3 uses draft 07, and Swagger 2.0 or OpenAPI 2.0 used to use draft 04, which was the older draft. So yeah, that was a crash course on OpenAPI and JSON schema. In your free time, you can go and explore on your own what all these things are and how, which component, like Kubernetes uses these things. So it means, it's a actively maintained specification, and it's actually a good thing. And in Meshery also, we are trying to be more and more schema driven. We use schema extensively, JSON schemas, and yeah, that was about it. Thank you, Friedish, for this particular item. I hope that we can get this merged pretty soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll share my screen again. Let's move on to the next item, which is by Abi, and I think I'll have to ping him for that. but I can talk about my own item first. Let me ping him so that while I'm talking, he can come back. Just give me a second. Okay, so I think Abhishek is here. Abhishek, can you hear me?
Yeah. Just 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. So let me share my screen. So it's my number, right?
Yeah, it's your number.
Don't- Okay. So I would start with the second item, that is failing test suits on UI. So I hope my correct screen is visible. Yeah. So yeah, if you look into the current Meshery/Meshery repository, then you'll see all the checks from quite a few time it's failing, right? So and most of the I mean almost all of them are failing due to the tests, UI end-to-end tests or UI integration tests are failing. The reason for the failure of the overall workflow is due to these reasons. So yeah, here you will see like end-to-end test is failing, and in some of the recent PR you will see like both end-to-end test as well as integration test. They are both failing simultaneously. So actually, we had some update in the API endpoints in Meshery Cloud as well as in Meshery server with respect to user preferences. But those changes are not, propagated through Meshery uh, tests, and that's why these tests are failing. So actually, we would just require some, any one of you who is willing to, actually make it. I mean, yeah, make it work. You can, try it out, and it will be like I would take the solution of this test as a good first issue to work you on, and yeah, I think you should at least if you are not working, I mean if you don't want to work it, you can just check like why it is failing and just and do some research. Yeah, it will just strengthen your knowledge of the end-to-end test as well as how Meshery life cycles behave.
Okay, so just interrupting you here to ask everyone on the call, is anyone like here familiar with Cypress test? Like you can raise your hand right now and get it assigned to you like right now so that you have something to work on. Or the second appropriate question would be, would anyone would like to learn Cypress or want to work on this thing? So after I stop speaking and then after Avi stops speaking, you have the opportunity to raise your hand and just say out your name so that we can get it assigned to you on the fly, and we don't have to wait after the call and then you ping on the Slack and then there's a back and forth. It's always good to have that thing on the call. Yeah, go ahead, Avi.
Yeah. So yeah, waiting for your hands, but even while looking at this from the top level, you'll see like something timed out retrying for a while, and just because most probably the API endpoints are timed out because right now the signature or the API endpoints, like either of them are changed, so that's why these errors are coming up. So maybe it is just a one or two liner fix in Cypress, and learning Cypress or just start working on it is like very easy. It is just like emulating a user, like whatever you do with your hands on keyboard or mouse, you just emulate it on the Cypress, and it is quite easy to learn. Like you can just learn it in 1 hour, 1 hour or 2 hours.
Okay, I guess
Yeah,
Friedish has raised his hand, so I think he would be he would like to work on this. So so yeah, you guys can talk
So
after the call, or if
so
you have
okay,
any
I
doubt.
actually use Cypress for not a lot, but just a bit. But I think that if there is something that I'm missing in my knowledge to kind of solve that issue, I can just quite learn it and work on it. And right now I have quite a lot of free time, so I'm free, so I can
Okay.
do it.
Okay, so thanks, British. If you're just for context, like whenever you are working on end-to-end test, so remember that end-to-end test requires server up. So you might require localhost 9081 up, as well as localhost 3000 where these tests are run. And when you are testing integration tests, then your server should be down, right? So you can approach by any of the, I mean, you can approach one thing at a time, either integration or end-to-end test. And we can always talk on it about on Slack, like if you have any problem or you want to know something about it.
Abhi, is this thing documented, the process of contributing to the Cypress test and running what
Yeah,
makes
it is
things come out?
documented. Yeah, so since I just came in hurry, so that's why I just forget to Meshery Cypress. Yeah, you'll see it here. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'll put this link in the chat
yeah. Thank you, thank you.
after I stop talking,
Okay,
right?
okay, sure. I will check it out.
Yeah. Okay, great, thanks.
Anyone else also who wants to contribute, you can go through that link that Abhi is going to post and maybe help Friedish or you know wait till another test fails so that you can get that assigned. And yeah, tests fail pretty often here. So you have to, especially UI tests, because Abhi is not that vigilant on UI tests. Anyways, next item. I'm just pulling a leg.
Yeah, I know. Second, which is first on the list, is using published design for Cypress test. So we have catalog, catalog of designs. I would get it via Meshery catalog, searching it on the Google,
So
and
in
I can.
Meshery, you represent like a deployment using a Meshery design, which you can generate either by using design configurator you have in Meshery or by mesh map, which is well, you might have already tested out mesh map. For those of you who didn't, please go and sign up for mesh map, test it out. And
Yeah.
by dragging in those nodes and dropping those nodes and configuring those node edges, everything, you generate a design out of that. So, and those
Yeah.
designs that can be published. And so if you click on any of these designs, you should be, if that thing is already not there, Abhi, do you see the order of those designs here? I don't think we do right now, but in Meshti Cloud you can, I guess. Yeah. So we don't see it here right now, but that someone is working on it also. This is my design, by the way, but it doesn't say my name. It should. All of these designs are published by some, like after you create a design and you think that it is usable by the community, it can be used by someone else, you can publish it by saying what this pattern does. Here it says pattern. Actually, we used to call it's like just like Swagger is now open API, pattern is now design. So that is the kind of thing. It used to be called pattern, but now it is more design centric. I would say it is more visual centric, so that's why it's called design. And these are the when you click on publish it, there is a request that comes to admins and the curators, and then when we approve it, you receive a mail that your design has been published. So that's the context on what these published designs are. Go ahead, Abhi.
Yeah, just to add on it, like we are just sign up for the playground, and uh, the playground interface and UI is quite much advanced than what you see in the Meshery UI. So yeah, that was the last edition. Yeah, so moving ahead, I lost the context of what I was talking about. Yeah, using published design for Cypress test. So all these designs are, user facing, right? So if any one of you is using the playground for the first time, or just signed up and you get access to the playground, like you might see, you might see in your design table, you might see these designs, right? So the first thing you will be doing is like testing out the current designs, right? That would be the usual behavior of an user. So I mean, does it is required that all these designs that are written here should be working and in fine condition. So we don't have any test to just test this thing out. So it may be possible that some designs like we just improve on mesh map and meshery and through REST APIs. I mean, we have a few different improvements here and there in the design format or pattern format or anything of that kind, and the designs listed here are left out by mistake or by chance. So I mean, what I'm onto is that these designs, if they are tested via UI end-to-end tests, so we would be able to find the problems, or we would be able to uh, yeah, we would be able to confirm that if they are up to date and they're deploying correctly and it is readily available, or it can be readily used by the user or not. So I think that's why it is required to write some end-to-end tests for testing these designs as well, listed here. You can get these designs in the Meshery UI or Meshmap UI via REST endpoints. So I think I'll put the REST API reference doc as well, but I'll do it later once I stop talking. And I think these are the two items that I had.
Okay, so as an action item on the published design for Cypress test, do we have any action item for that? So that we can break down the task and delegate in case there are action items, if you think.
Yeah, if first of all, these tests, I mean, like the action item, I'm just thinking about the action item from the perspective of two user interfaces, one from the design configurator and another from the mesh map. We won't talk about mesh map right now, but design configurator, the this endpoint specially slash configuration slash patterns has the capability to deploy any design, right? Some problem.
I think it's HTTP. I don't know if redirection should have been working, but if you go back to HTTPS.
Yeah, sometime it happens. Continue to site. Should.
Can you see, just make it HTTPS? All the redirections should have been.
It's not happening, but I'm sure like if I would have opened Firefox, it wouldn't have been the problem. Yeah, it's going to. So yeah, here is the UI, and this UI can be used to deploy and undeploy any designs for that matter, right? So for example, this is the design by name Gaurav. Like I don't know if it can be deployable, it is deployable or not, but just selecting this element from here and clicking on deploy would deploy it in this cluster. So I think you can just take any catalog items by clicking on this, and here are all the catalog items that you could have, and the one by one try to deploy everything that we have on catalog item. And I think that would make the perfect test, because all the designs are being deployed on every pull request or on every merge master in Meshery UI. Yeah, I think so. Okay. You asked about the breakdown of tasks. So the breakdown of task would be just to first of all click on the I mean, it's not a breakdown, but yeah, you can just do it all at once by going to visiting this page, this API endpoint, clicking on this catalog, and then clicking on deploy button one by one on all the published design, right? So yeah, that would be the thing, or action item.
Okay. If anyone has any questions to Abhi, I'll wait for 5-10 seconds and then I'll move to the last two items that I have related to playground. Okay, so I'll move.
By the way, how many of you have signed up Like just raise your hands or click plus or just
Yeah.
signal
I was also
anything.
gonna ask that. Let's invert the question. How many of you have not signed up? Will you raise your hand for mesh map?
Some people may not know how to sign up, so if you can just
Yeah,
Ashish, if you
so
can.
if you go to play.meshery.io over here, yeah, you'll find a quick video. You can see that video, and then you can see that again, and then you can come back to here. Not come back. I mean, you can scroll down over get early access. It's still in beta, but yeah, you can fill this form, click on submit, and then we'll get a mail with your name and with your occupation and with your email address. And most probably we will click on approve. The moment we'll click on approve, you'll get the access. Then you can come to the playground and you can see what I'm seeing. Right now, there is this guy, Gaurav Chadda, who is creating his design, and I can see where his cursor is, and it's like, yeah, it's like Figma for DevOps, if you like to put it this way. I can move around some of the components. I can look at what are the things that he has filled in. Avi can also open this form, and like Avi, can you open this form so that all three of us are on it?
Yeah,
And
just doing it.
yeah, so like Avi can also come over here, and we can. So it's usually for multiple teams, or even in a single team, people can come together on a particular component, let's say. So Avi's here as well. He can change anything in, let's say, in the alert manager component, and the moment he'll do that, the thing will reload on me as well. So yeah, it's a collaboration tool. It's kind of like Google Docs. So this is another component that he has added. I don't know from which particular model. So yeah, these are the categories, and in different categories you have different components. You can keep adding things. You can yeah, it performs validation for you as well. So that's kind of how it works. You can collaborate here with your friends on a particular design, and you can basically build it until it's, you can keep validating it. There are like 13 errors. I'm missing all these things. I need to come back and fill this thing. And once it's deployable, I can come to the cluster and I can click on deploy. Right now, when I'll click on deploy, it'll just error out. So I will not, because I'm missing all these things, right? I should not be missing all these things. You can put stuff in the like namespaces. You can draw edges between things between which edges are allowed actually. Like not everything can have edges. So yeah, there's a lot more you can do here. You can explore on yourself. This is, I don't want to make it like go from a CI call to a mesh map fanboying call. So yeah, you can sign up here. You can play with mesh map, and ask your friends to come over here as well, and try not to break the playground, which I'm going to talk about in my next item. Because previously we had the playground locked down, so you couldn't deploy stuff, but now you can. So yeah, you have a lot more power now. You can click on, the moment you click on deploy over here, you deploy something on a CNCF cluster, and yeah, which is kind of it sounds dangerous as well, because once you have mesh map privileges, you have a lot of privileges, it seems like now. So I won't go over into details about how to break Meshery, because I don't think I should that's I should talk about those things. But yeah, play with caution over here. You have a lot of privileges here. So that brings me to my item, which is resetting the playground. So this playground that you see over here is hosted on a 2-node cluster in Kubernetes. So CNCF was kind enough to provide us with 2 bare metal servers, and so on those 2 bare metal servers, we have a 2-node Kubernetes cluster running. And so what we want to do is that once people start deploying stuff, they might bloat the cluster, and they will actually. So cluster might run out of resources, although there's like 64 gigs of RAM or something, but still, you have limited resources. You can't just keep deploying stuff. And this is playground for designing. And like another mode we have is visualizer. So you can come over here and you can like look at what are all the namespaces you have, what are all the things that you have in the cluster. Basically, by you can sort them by labels, you can sort them by anything else, anything you want to. But yeah, so these are like, this is the state of my cluster right now. I can look at it. Pretty cool, right? So that's mesh map. So this is the visualizer mode, this is the designer mode. And in visualizer mode, you can see that there are a lot of things in my cluster right now. I don't want them all to be. So like if you'll deploy something in the cluster, you would be able to see it over here. And maybe I want these adapters, but I might not want some other stuff. So maybe I want Istio, but a lot of things might be not needed. So there is a nightly workflow that's added here. It runs every midnight, and right now, like, it's the first iteration. So all it does is that so first of all, we have the kube config for that particular cluster base 64 encoded into a secret. So we extract it from there, and then we just delete all the namespaces except these namespaces. Not very intelligent, but anyways, that's the stepping stone. The second step over here is because we do not delete the default namespace. So what should we do there? Because we can't delete the default namespace. So like, should we delete all the resources in the default namespace? But the thing is, there is a service in the default namespace, so we can't delete that. So this workflow is all about how to clean up the cluster in the most optimal way by not deleting anything that is important. Like for example, you have this Meshery namespace. If you delete Meshery namespace, well, you delete the playground. So because it's in the Meshery namespace. So we don't want to do that. So if there's a metal LB namespace, if you delete this namespace, you won't be able to like allocate IPs, because that's the metal LB is what responsible right now. As like, if you deploy your Kubernetes in AKS or GK, you have cloud providers who look for the load balancer type IP, and then they provide you with an IP. For bare metal clusters, you use metal LB. So that's what we're using. Project Contour, this is the thing that has the API gateway. So these are like important stuff. We don't want to delete it. Like, this is CNI. Cube Flannel is the namespace where we have the CNI deployed. So the networking will crash. So we can't delete everything. So we delete all the namespaces except these namespaces. So if users deploy, let's say, something in test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, we don't want those namespaces to at least bloat stuff. So it just delete that namespace, which means that everything inside of that, every namespace resource inside that namespace would be deleted. Now, there are other things which won't be deleted. For example, the cluster scoped resources. You can create a cluster role, and you can create a cluster role binding using Meshery playground, and you can deploy that, and it won't be deleted because it's scoped to cluster and not to a namespace. So yeah, so if you would like to work on this thing, if you have some Kubernetes experience, if you have some experience around this, cleaning up clusters intelligently and all those stuff, if you're still learning as well, you can add suggestions. So yeah, this is the workflow inside of a .github/workflow/reset playground.yaml. You can give your suggestions. You can maybe create a pull request, but this thing is very sensitive, because one bad command over here and you can bring down the cluster, because this has the this particular workflow gets the access to the kube config for the playground cluster. So everything has to be dealt cautiously. We cannot merge PR on a hunch, right? So everything has to be tested. All these commands have to be tested locally, or in, like, maybe in your own cluster. So for example, you can test this command on your local cluster by having a kube config in this particular directory, or any directory. You can pass it with /kube config flag anyways. So yeah, I would be working on this particular workflow. If someone wants to collaborate with me, you can ping me on Slack, not personal message, Meshery CI, on the Meshery CI channel, so that other folks can also see it. Other folks can also contribute there. And yeah, we would be making this thing a little bit more intelligent. So like, deploying all the pods from this thing, we don't want to like be a very like keep getting specific, because it's like a can of worms. So if we don't want it to be a big blob of if conditions, what like it is right now. So if you have better ideas around cluster cleanups, maybe a good idea would be, hey, what if anything that was deployed, you attach an annotation to it, and then you do a cleanup using the whatever. So yeah, so there are like 100 ways to do a cluster cleanup. And if you have ideas, if you want to contribute around that, you can collaborate with me on this particular thing on Slack. That was the update. This PR is most right now. So if I go ahead and like deploy a namespace, uh, I can search things from here. So if I search for namespace, I see two things, like a pulsar name. I don't want to deploy that. So let's say I want to deploy test Ashish namespace just for fun. So I click on deploy. I can see no validation errors. I click on deploy. It has my design has been deployed. My test Ashish namespace has been deployed. So I should be able to come over here and visualize it and see it in a few minutes, because there is a broker running. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to send out data, but yeah, you can see test Ashish is now over here. So inside of test Ashish, if I'll unselect all, check what's inside of test Ashish, then let me check for all. So yeah, I can do all sorts of filtering over here based on different namespaces. There is nothing in the test Ashish namespace right now. So yeah, but if I deploy something in a test Ashish namespace, uh, it's weird to say test Ashish, my own name again and again. Anyways, so if I deploy anything in that thing, this particular workflow will make sure that the namespace is deleted. So, but it's still limited to namespace. We want to extend this to anything that user deploys. We don't want to, in Playground, you can test things out, you can deploy your own things, but we don't guarantee that those things will stay in our cluster, because, at the end of the day, it's our own cluster. So if you want to do it yourself, then, install Meshery on your own local cluster. And if you have access to mesh map, you would be able to download mesh map in your own cluster and play with it. So, and report bugs when you run into them. Make suggestions how things should be. Maybe you don't like this way of deployment. Maybe you want this X feature or YX feature. So yeah, that was about the reset. Another thing is also related to the Playground only, which is okay. So this has also been merged. So every time a Meshery release is made, we want to make a you know we want to make a rollout, so which is nothing but a kubectl rollout restart. So we have a deployment running in Meshery namespace, and when you do a rollout restart, it uses the whatever upgrade strategy you have specified in the deployment, and it restarts your pods. So right now we have only one pod running. It has its own story regarding sticky sessions and cookie based user sessions. If you're interested in that, I don't know, I can't talk because we have just 3 minutes, so I won't go into details, but we have a single pod running for Meshery due to some XYZ reasons. We can have a discussion in Meshery CI channel. Why is that the case? You can maybe ask there, hey, why do we have only one Meshery pod? When users, why don't you have like a horizontal or pod autoscaler? Why aren't you using Kubernetes metrics API, which can yeah, we can do that, but we're not doing that. You can ask that on the Slack. But the single pod will be restarted every time a Meshery release is made, so that the new Meshery image that has just been pushed on Docker Hub can be pulled, and Meshery can be run with no downtime. You can run the latest version of Meshery. That's the power of Kubernetes. So right now, this is what it does. It just rolls out your Meshery deployment, our Meshery deployment in the Playground environment on every release. So yeah, that's it about this particular PR. It has been merged. I don't think this one needs any changes, because because we don't right now we are not looking for anything except for a rollout when a release is made, so that Playground is always at the latest Meshery. But yeah, those were the two things around the Playground that I wanted to discuss. And I also talked about Playground a little. And again, I would like to say that if you haven't already signed up for this thing, please go ahead and sign up. I think Aditya just joined. We just have 2 minutes, but I'd say, Aditya, would you quickly like to talk about your thing so that I can stop talking and maybe you can go over your thing? If we go like 2 minutes over also, that it's fine, but we can like quickly go over this thing. I'll stop sharing my screen. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'll quickly share my screen. Okay. So recently, whatever catalogs that we are trying to publish from the mesh map is not getting published in the meshery.io catalog website. And the reason for it is that we have a workflow add catalog in Meshery.io, which is failing. And the reason for failure is that the URL that we use to fetch the API, or the URL that we use to fetch the pattern, like the catalog content, it has been changed. So due to this, if we use this earlier URL, we get this error, invalid nomenclature at line 1. And now the error is that if I change this to the new API URL, I still get this error, parse error, invalid string control characters from this. So yeah, that's the problem I've been facing.
Okay, so yeah, I promised that I'd help you in this particular area, but I got busy in other stuff, so I was not able to get back to you. But I think someone else might be able to contribute. So if you want to contribute around GitHub Actions, and this is a bash script issue, so if you have any experience in bash scripts, I think you might be able to contribute with Aditya over here. Aditya, after the call, it would be nice if you put the thread, the link of the thread where you were explaining all those things in Meshery CI channel, so that other people can look into that thread, and which is kind of like the text version of what you just spoke. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there is an error while parsing this particular script. I mean, I'll if no one else does, I'll get back to this thing. So if someone else wants to, I mean, this is a pretty straightforward area to contribute to bash script. So yeah, thank you, Aditya.
Okay.
Uh, so yep. So there are no agenda items left, and this brings us to the end of the call. We are 1 minute after, but anyways, I think this was a healthy list of things to talk about. There were new faces today as well, so I hope that I see you all in the next call as well. And like by that time, you might be more comfortable with GitHub Actions and other workflows that we have, and maybe Meshmap as well, because you might have signed up for that, and you might have found bugs in that, and etc. etc. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah,
And,
by the way, if someone founds the bug, how they can inform us?
yeah, would you like to elaborate on that as well?
Okay, that was a question, by the way. But anyways, yeah, you can all write. There is just one way because Meshmap is right now closed source. It will be open in some time, maybe. I can't promise that, by the way. But yeah, so you can just come on Slack and complain anything about. So it's still in beta, so you might expect something here and there. But yeah, if you catch some bugs, like please inform us so that it can be worked quickly. Other than that, it's yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yep. So okay, I'll close again. So thanks everyone for joining. See you all in the next call, and I'll post a link to this. I'll post everything that we talked about in the discuss form. So, and also on the Slack channel. So